Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Stance podcast. I am your host, Alex Wachowski. And last weekend, a few days ago, I competed in the ProSayulita Sup Open, an annual event pretty much, right here in my backyard. And it was a super fun experience. Every single year, it's always good. And it was a super fun experience, and I'm going to talk about my experience, kind of get an idea of what was in my head leading up to the race, just everything in general, just a little fun conversation, just a chat. So leading up to the race, I was training 6 weeks with Christian Anderson and Subduck, so I would go over to where they were staying every 2 or 3 times a week, and so I would train with them, and I got a lot of good experience with them, and I was able to push myself to lengths that I had never really pushed myself before. And it was really fun, really nice, and everyone there was super kind. So that's what I was kind of doing leading up to it, but I was also kind of dealing with a few mental struggles, and I'm still struggling with it right now. I am going to post a podcast episode kind of about what I've been dealing with, just kind of me that transition between becoming from a kid becoming an adult, just that big transition. It has been hitting me more recently, dealing with that. So going into the competition, my mental health wasn't really the best, and when my mental health isn't the best, it directly affects my physical health. And so leading up to the race, I just felt physically drained, exhausted, even though I wasn't killing myself in any training sessions. I was maintaining what I had already built up, I guess, in strength. I was just maintaining, and I still felt extremely exhausted, as if I didn't sleep enough or what. I do think that I did have to do a little bit with my nutrition. I definitely did not eat enough protein leading up to that race, which, my mistake. I kind of let myself go, just in the sense that I just did not feel like eating, but also kind of just with the nerves and everything. And then my training session, the last training session before I did the competition, I went out with my coach Nando, and we did a little tiny distance. I say it was about 3K, 2K, 3K. And 1, I injured my back during that session, and 2, I was just so extremely frustrated with myself. I screamed, I yelled, I just tried to get all of the anger out of my body, because I was just angry at the world and at myself, just because I was feeling physically exhausted. And I'm it felt like the 6 weeks leading up to this race was for nothing, pretty much. I just felt so weak, and I was also being frustrated because the conditions, a little movement of the water would send my board off weird. My balance wasn't it that day, and so I was so frustrated, and I was crying, screaming, yelling, all these things. And then when I got to the beach, Juliet Duhaim was there, and we kind of talked about the situation and all that stuff. And then I injured my back. And I didn't feel that well. That was the last training session in Sayulita. I did go over to Punta de Mita, because leading up to the race, there was this whole sewer water situation, unfortunately, in town, so no one really wanted to train at the beach. So my brother, my dad, and I went to Punta de Mita, just where Christian and Doc were training, but we didn't train with them, and we just kind of went in the water, and I worked on a few turns, I tried to move around, right, just to loosen my muscles a little bit, loosen my body up. And then on Friday, the day before competition, it was interviews and reception. So, and actually before I even went to the interviews or reception, I actually filmed a podcast episode with my friend Dani about CONADE, Los Juegos Olímpicos CONADE, which I will be posting later. I don't know when I'm going to be posting it, but it'll be fun. After that, I went to do an interview, and it was just a little interview that some of the videographers were hosting, just to review, just to interview everyone, all the competitors, and just ask you questions. And it was so weird, because I like to say that I can talk easily on the camera, just kind of like this, but the second that I'm being interviewed, especially in Spanish, I always just trip up and I don't know what to say, and it always gets so confusing. But I did try my best, and I hope it did turn out fine, or they could use some of the content that I made for them. And then I was with my friend Dani, and then another friend Fer, who was also at CONADE. I met her at CONADE, and we kind of just walked around and kind of hung out. And then we had to go to reception, and it was in this really cute restaurant. It's like the restaurant that's attached to Hotel Selena, which is here in town. And we got to sign up and got our little jerseys, and I got to see everyone. I got to see a lot of my friends, and everyone was kind of in the same spot. And then we just kind of did a little briefing, race briefing, and they do this thing every year where the people who won prior get like a special jersey for them to wear during the competition. So I got to wear a special jersey because I got second last year, so that was fun. And then I headed home and I crashed. I went to bed with a really, really bad headache just because I did not drink any water. That was such a bad mistake. I did not drink any water leading up. Like, during that day, I tried to drink a little bit of water, but I mistakenly didn't bring my water bottle for reception in the interview. So, like, I just didn't drink any water at all. But I did eat a lot of protein. That was something that I made sure that I did eat because I needed that, honestly. And then it was the morning Saturday, the first day, and the first day was a tech race. Skippers meeting was supposed to be at 8 a.m., so I got there at 8 a.m., and of course no one was actually there. You can never expect a Mexican event to be on time, but it's still sad that, like, even then, no one really respects that start time. And so we kind of just waited, and the tech race was supposed to be at around like 10, and it started at like 10:40, and the woman went first, so that meant that I was the first one to be on the water. And so leading up to that, I did like a super big warm-up. I did a beach warm-up, and then I went in the water. Oh my god, I'm like getting nervous just talking about this, but like I've already done this, but my body is still like reacting to like that pre-race preparation, you know. So I warmed up, and I kept on making I was getting frustrated at myself because I was making so many mistakes, and I just couldn't stay on my board. And again, I felt exhausted, and it was a bummer because I really wanted to feel well going into the race, but it physically felt like I wasn't ready at all. But anyways, after warming up, I just waited a little bit for the competition or the race to start, and then we got on the start line, and I was on the far right, so I didn't have anyone. I wasn't in between anyone, which was really good. I liked that. And so the course was a very, very short course, so we did 4 laps, and you had to have every time you went in the lap, you needed to go around a table, but you needed a caddy. You couldn't like run with your board. You had to run alone, and the caddy, whoever caddy was yours, whoever was your caddy, just had to grab your board. And like normally if you have a caddy, and especially because you're like constantly going in and out of the beach, you don't want to wear a leash, but the waves were big enough to where I definitely wanted to wear a leash, and I think majority of the women did wear a leash, and a few of the men wore leashes too. And so we sent off, and we did all that, and I definitely messed up on the beach start because I didn't get to my feet fast enough, unfortunately, so that did slow me down a lot. And when we got to the first buoy, you do a 90-degree turn to the next buoy, left shoulder turn, 90-degree turn to the other buoy, and so you were then going to go parallel to the beach. But when I reached the buoy, there was a wave that was like, it was going to like crash on the buoy pretty much. And instead of me turning, I decided to continue going straight out so that I went over the wave and then I could turn, and I just barely made it over the wave, which meant like all the women behind me pretty much got caught in it or just barely passed it as well. And my mom was saying that everyone was like, oh my god, like on the beach, like oh my god, what is she gonna do? But I felt like a badass going over that wave. Unfortunately, no one filmed it, which is a big bummer, but whatever. So by then, during the race, I was in 3rd position, and coming in from the first lap, I made like a lot of mistakes. I fell once on a big wave, and then I got back up and continued still paddling back in, and I fell on another wave, and I was so mad. I'm like, are you kidding me? Is this what it's going to be my entire race? Am I just going to keep on falling? But fortunately, that was not the case. I only fell one other time, which was a stupid fall. I fell on the way out. There was no waves or anything. I just tilted weird and I fell. But when I fell on those waves coming into the beach, 4th place, her name was Katniss Paris, she cut up to me and she passed me, And I'm like, oh no. I wanted that third place. I wasn't going to allow myself to get fourth. So I made sure that I caught up to her and I passed her, and I was maintaining a strong, consistent pace throughout the entire course, and fortunately that pace was faster than Katniss's. So I ended up passing her and I ended up getting third place. But it definitely, like, it was stressful just in the sense that I did not feel comfortable on my board at all. I've definitely been struggling with my board and just like the balance in general when it comes to it. It felt like I was walking on thin ice. Like I couldn't make any like sudden moves. I couldn't make any drastic switches. I had to just kind of stay stable on my board, and I couldn't really go out of my comfort zone or out of my center of balance. But that's just something that I have to work on with just like time on my board. But like, and then the caddy thing, it ended up being fine. My caddy was Nando, my coach, and so we talked about how everything would work out and plan out while I was running and while he was grabbing my board. And we did a few like practice rounds, and every single time I kept on messing up. And that was another thing. I kept on getting so stressed out because I kept on messing up the practice for the caddy. But fortunately, like everything turned out fine. So yeah, I ended the tech race in third place, which was nice, but I definitely feel like I can do better. And I was told after that, a few people were telling me like, you weren't as like explosive or as like aggressive this year than you were the last 2 years. And I'm like, don't say that. But I definitely, like, I was in a position physically and mentally to where I felt like I wasn't really capable of being like super aggressive, super strong. So yeah, that was the first day, and I didn't do any of the subsurf. So that essentially I paddled for like 20 minutes that day, and then I was just done. I didn't have to do anything else. And then the next day was the long distance race, and it was a 10K. And I was like dreading this race so much. I hated it. I felt like I was talking to Juliet before the race, and I was just saying how I did not feel like physically I was ready to do a 10K at this pace, especially because I was feeling so slow and drained the past several days. But the long distance race ended up going pretty well. Immediately, Juliet was like bang zoom, like near the front. So there was no way I was going to be able to keep up with her draft. However, I did hop on to Katniss's draft, and so I kind of stayed with her for the majority of the race. Near the beginning, I was able to stay with her draft, and I was kind of thinking like if any other woman kind of passed us, I would hop on to her draft and then we would continue forward. But by that time, like no other woman was passing us, so I felt safe and we felt comfortable. And we also ended up kind of like switching back and forth between drafts. So like I would go in front and then she would go in front. We just kind of worked together throughout the race. And then near the end, I was in front, so I was giving her a rest. And then near like the last like 2 kilometers, I think I really stepped up my pace and kind of like would kind of catch the little bumps in the water. And I ended up losing her in the process of me kind of increasing my pace. And I think like the last like 500 meters for me, it was like a full-on sprint to that finish line. And I was saying like what motivated me to work for second instead of settling for third, because I was saying that like, you know what, third is fine. And then I remembered that the difference between like the money you earn for second in comparison to like third place was double. It was like double the amount. Second place got double the amount of what third place got. So that was what was motivating me near the end of the race to kind of pick up my pace, was like if you get second, you get double of what you would get if you were to get third place. And I also was sprinting just because I wanted to separate myself so much from Katniss, because even if I did separate myself a lot from her, near the end, once we were paddling in, she could have caught a wave and easily caught up to me, and she almost did that. And I was like, oh my god, no, don't do that, please. But she didn't catch the wave, so I ended up going in and getting second place, which felt really nice. And I definitely felt really good during the race and even after the race. And I felt really good, and all like that like physical exhaustion, it just kind of disappeared just during the race, and I felt good and I felt strong. I definitely like just having that adrenaline kind of help because if I don't have adrenaline, then like I just feel like so exhausted. And then I spent the rest of the day at the event site just kind of watching the subsurf, watching all the finals. And then we did the award ceremony, and the award ceremony was super nice, super chill. I'm pretty proud of my placings, though I do believe that I can do better. Throughout these past months, I have been struggling to kind of get in the water because my main motivation does come from competitions. And while I did have a competition back in November, it wasn't really a competition for me, at least, because I hadn't paddled in like 2 months. So my last like actual competition was back in July. And when competitions are your motivator, like competitions are my why. I kind of just like, I've been struggling to find my why recently, and that race kind of made me remember what my why was. My why is competitions. So it's definitely hard to paddle and stay consistent and stay disciplined when you're not competing. But this race definitely kind of snapped me back into things and kind of allowed me to remember what I'm paddling for, and it's given me a lot more motivation and drive to continue to do good, because I do see how much I am lacking. Knowing that I am going to the World Championships at the end of the year, hopefully, and paddling against a woman, Juliet, who has done really, really good at the World Championships. Like, I know that's what I'm going to be up against. I'm going to be up against like 10 Juliets, you know, like 20 Juliets. And then so seeing the difference in level between her and it's definitely eye-opening, especially because it's hard to see what level you're at when you aren't surrounded by super duper strong paddlers. And that was also why I really liked paddling with Christian and Doc, because it was a step up. It was something to fight towards. It was someone with an amazing level that I could look up to and try to catch up to and pay attention to their paddling. So it was definitely really eye-opening as well. The competition was very eye-opening, and this year so many pros came, and it was so incredibly fun, and everyone is super chill, super nice, and it's just like a really awesome, fun community of paddlers. Also, I forgot to mention that I wanted to thank everyone who set up the event, who made the events. Fernando Sala, the ProSayulita, Home, everyone, all the above from Mexico, literally everyone. And I also want to say a huge congratulations to all of the competitors. I didn't mention this, but the person who came in second in the tech race was Sophia Feiner. So in the tech race, it was Juliet Duheim, Sophia Feiner, then me. And then in the long distance race, it was Juliet, me, and then Katniss Paris. So yeah, I just want to say a huge congratulations to all the women competitors, all the male competitors. And it's so much fun seeing such a high level competition right in my backyard. It's so fun seeing Sayulita be put back on the map when it comes to stand-up paddleboard events. So yeah, I also just wanted to throw that in there real quick. So yeah, that was my experience at the event. There isn't like so much to talk about, just because if I had like talked about an event where we had to travel to, there would be a lot more to talk about. But considering that I had to like walk 5 minutes to the event site, there wasn't like as much to talk about. My takeaways on the event is that I have to step up my game. I have to really step up my game, and I have to get a lot more hours in the water if I want to even be considered as a contender in the upcoming races that I have. The Gorge in July, and then hopefully Denmark, and then hopefully Florida. Unfortunately, I am not going to have any races leading up to July. I'm going to have like 4 months where I'm just not competing, which is kind of scary considering how much it affected me the past several months not competing. But we're going to see. We're going to try our best. I think once I kind of like fully process the fact that I am going to the Worlds and just my level in comparison to the top woman in the world, I will kind of step up my game. And this race definitely helped me a lot, trying to realizing my level in comparison to the top woman in the world, especially because Juliet is one of the best women in the world right now. But I'm excited for this next month, these next several months. I'm ready to put in a lot of effort and to put in a lot of training and to try my best, even though a lot of it will be on my own. And yeah, I think that is all. It's a short episode, but I just wanted to talk about it. I haven't posted in a while, but I have several podcasts, like a few edited, a few recorded. So I am going to be posting a lot these next few weeks, fortunately. Every time I filmed a podcast, episode, I'd be like, I should wait because I have this coming up, so I'll post this first. So I haven't even, like, I have a podcast episode that was supposed to be released in February, but I haven't done that yet. So this will be posted, and then that one will be posted. So pay attention for that. I'm going to be talking about my process in applying for becoming a Mexican citizen. It's going to be a long episode, but it's pretty eventful, and it's a big step forward in my paddling career and just me, myself, and my identity. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or if you're listening to it on YouTube, subscribe, comment, like, all that jazz. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.